It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, talking about incredible classic beers that deserve more love, respect, and attention. And this week we are talking about Dark Horse Brewing out of Marshall, Michigan, and their Crooked Tree IPA. This is a brewery that I absolutely love. They're from my home state. I visited the brewery several times. I have some great memories of it that I'll get into in a few minutes. But first, the beer. This is their Crooked Tree IPA. It's a flagship beer. This brewery's been around since 1997, so they've been doing it for a long time. I couldn't find any specifics about when the first batch of Crooked Tree was brewed, but I believe it was very early on in 97 or 98. I could be wrong on that. But they also have tons of other great beers. They have a double Crooked Tree IPA that I love. They have a beer called, or at least they did, called Scotty Karate, which was a Scotch ale. One of the first Scotch ales I ever had, actually, was that beer. I just really love what they do over there. And this beer is really up my alley as far as IPAs go. It's got the citrus, the grapefruit of a classic IPA. It's got bitterness to it. We always talk about that. We talk about how much we love bitterness in IPAs because it seems to have gone away these days. You get these dank resinous flavors. You have pine resin here. I'm getting a little bit of lemon as well as the grapefruit, so kind of a well-rounded citrus profile. I'm also getting some like nice earthy flavors in here as well that complement those resinous and piney flavors. It's really, really nice, well-crafted beer. You can see again, more of an orangey kind of hue, so there's some real malt backbone here. I'm not picking up, sometimes when malty IPAs, they can pick up a little bit of like background sweetness from the malt. That's well balanced out by the bitterness, but I'm not really even getting that. I'm not getting that really pronounced caramel flavor, even though it's in there, but it's very, very subtle. So I think this is well balanced of having some malt flavor here and relying on using more of a complex malt bill without having that kind of dominate the flavor profile. And overall, it's just really, really drinkable. The bitterness is well integrated, and it's just a lovely beer. And I was thrilled when I was back home in Michigan that my dad actually had a six-pack of this already in the fridge, so I was able to take one with me when I came down. I enjoyed most of that six-pack while I was up there. But listen, Dark Horse Brewing, this is why I love this brewery. I went there when I was back home in Michigan years and years ago. I was home. I was on a little brewery tour. It's kind of early on. I had just started brewing professionally, and I basically drove around the state going to a bunch of different breweries. I went to New Holland. They were fantastic. Went to Founders for the first time, and my favorite brewery out of all the breweries I visited, Bell's, Founders, like I said, New Holland, places like that, was Dark Horse. And we just kind of swung through Marshall, Michigan. I'd never heard of them before. And it's a very unassuming kind of restaurant, tap house, whatever it is, or how you would phrase it. And it just kind of in the middle of nowhere. And I walked in. They have all these mugs hanging from the ceiling. They have a mug club with like 4,000 people, but they have these hooks so that it's like everywhere, covering the ceiling. And didn't know what to expect. The beer was fantastic. The food was fantastic. Everything I had, I loved. It was so amazing. But also, as I was there, enjoying my sandwich, drinking several beers, a brewer came in to grab himself a pint, and we got to talking for a few minutes. I told him I was a brewer. He just said, "Hey, let me pour you a beer. Take me in the back. I'm going to show you around." And he walked me through the brewery, gave me a tour. He didn't have to do that. He was in the middle of his brew day. He doesn't know me. I was, my very young in the industry, right? Went behind the ears. So I was asking a bunch of questions and really, really excited. Guy went by the name of Wiggs. Super cool, and really sold that experience. And just the food, the beer, everything was great. And then later on, we were both pouring at the Extreme Beer Fest with Funky Buddha when I was brewing there, and they were at the event as well. And I got a chance to run into the same guy, tell him the story of how he showed me around. We talked about doing a collaboration. Never happened, but it was just wonderful. I really, really loved that place, so much so that when I went back to Michigan, I took my dad there. It's like a 2.5 hour drive from where I live, but we had to go there. I've been there several times since. So it's a great brewery. The beers are fantastic. And I just love the fact that they were so hospitable to me and that I was able to kind of engage with that brewery because, so many of these beers that we do for Old Favorite Friday, they're breweries that I absolutely love, Sierra Nevada, but I've never been. I've never had a chance to go to most of the places that we talk about. And just the fact that I was able to do this beer, talk about this brewery, brings a lot of joy to me because, that's why we do this, why we love craft beer. We love this industry. Okay, enough of my story. So what are we going to pair this beer with? So I was look on the website, and there's a beer that I actually have. Like I said, the food there is fantastic. They do like a brisket sandwich with like a horseradish sauce and provolone cheese. think it'd be great with this beer. I think there's enough malt backbone to be enough richness to go with that brisket. And I like the idea of like the pine and lemon and citrus going with the horseradish sauce. I think those are good pairings that work well together. You can also go with your classic, fried chicken sandwich. You can go with your buffalo wings. Most IPAs, they're versatile. They go with those kind of dishes, but this specifically with a little more earthy flavor, as well as those kind of classic West Coast style profiles like the citrus and the pine, I think is going to go really good with the brisket sandwich with horseradish sauce. Now, if you're a fan of Dark Horse and you've been there, maybe you can have these two together and let us know if those work out really well together. Thank you guys very much for tuning in with me again. We love craft beer. We love talking about incredible beers that we don't think get enough love. This beer is not available in South Florida, so you can't go out there and get it if you're local to here. But if you're lucky enough to have Dark Horse distributed in your area, get yourself a can of Crooked Tree this Friday. Enjoy it over the weekend, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.